Yo, gangsta, one of the best yet.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Wagwan, my gangsters. How's it going, friends? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. Do hope you're doing well, mate. Really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News. I recognise wearing the white wife beater, unkept beard and need for a shave, looking a little bit like sweaty. I realise this is giving trailer trash. For that, I apologise. I guess the tattoo in front of the neck doesn't help that as well. Still, I'm very hot and uncomfortable. So, welcome back to Football Therapy and Chelsea News. Today we're discussing a little bit of Andre Santos going back to Strasbourg. Good. I would say my blessing has been given. We'll talk about that briefly. And then we're going to get into the Conor Gallagher stuff, of course. Big hot topic at the moment. Everyone's speaking about it. Looks like it could get, I don't know, a little bit ugly, maybe. Ultimatum has been given to the young England midfielder. Still quite young. He's young, isn't he? He's definitely young. Well, he's young to me. He's mid-20s. That's got to be young still. It's all downhill once you get past 30, friends. So yes, strap yourselves in. Thank you as always for joining me. I do really appreciate all the support that I've received here on the channel. You're all part of the family, the Football Therapy community, and for the OGs out there, yeah, the GOAT gang. Alright, so let's start off with Andre. He's gone back to Strasbourg. They did a freaking cool announcement video. I don't know if you've seen it. The little kid, like, with a shirt and holds it up, and he's doing the Andre Santos celebration, and it's really well put together, actually. I dig it. I think it looks cool. I like it. Of course, he enjoyed a 6 months loan spell there last campaign. He had a poor first 6 months at Forest, went to Strasbourg, made them infinitely better as a team under Patrick Vieira. And it wasn't necessarily his plan to go back. And this is genuine. He's really highly regarded at Chelsea Football Club, Santos. There's no inkling of selling for a profit like a portfolio player. Everything's subject to change, of course, in the game of football. But they really, really do like him, and they see an opportunity to just keep his development, to make him the starter and see how well Strasbourg can do. Of course, Chelsea, Blue Co at large, do have an interest in Strasbourg doing well because they are a Blue Co club, you know, Chelsea's first satellite club, sister club in the multi-club model, which fans really didn't like at first. I think the Strasbourg fans are really largely happy about Santos. They did that whole thing with 6 months, like never fall in love with a loan player. Oh, but he's just going back to Chelsea, and they're really upset. And even though he's not being sold to Strasbourg, and many of the fans will know that, getting him for an entire season after a positive 6 months, an 18-month spell there, that's like a really short contract almost. That is like, they'll probably be quite happy with that. And if they get like, I don't know, top half, top 8 finish, even, is that doable? Maybe they're ambitious. Then I think they should be really happy with that. And I do think it would be really good for his development, because it's a place where he can go and be the man. You know, he can go and you know, he knows the club already, and he's still so young. How old is he? 20 years old? He's super young. He's 20 years old, man. In fact, he doesn't turn 21 until the end of next season. So he could come back to Chelsea as a 21-year-old, as a seasoned European midfielder that, you know, is completely settled. I think he's got a kid on the way. He will have his kid, and you know, I have a feeling it could be a really, really good move for him. And by then, we'll know more about, you know, is Lavia the one? Are we going to have to change a little bit how we play? Is he going to, you know, are we now in the Champions League where we need his quality as a rotational player rather than other players that can be brought into the Conference League? So we'll see what happens there. Let me know what you think of Santos to Strasbourg. Right, let me just sip my delicious cool beverage. That's good. So yes, let's talk about it. Conor Gallagher, Atletico Madrid. Of course, the story broke. He's rejected 2 short-term contract extensions with Chelsea, but on better terms. We're going to learn a little bit more about that in just a moment from Nizar Kinsella of the Bubaka, the BBC, of course. Ben Jacobs also explained how Atletico Madrid, of course, they've agreed a fee with Chelsea for Conor Gallagher. The agreement has been made. It's done. They are waiting on Conor Gallagher's decision, whether he'll join or not. And they want this made by Monday. Of course, today at time of recording being Friday afternoon, he needs to get a wiggle on, essentially, and make his decision before Monday. And a multitude of things can happen. Well, no, not actually. One of two things can happen. But we're going to get more context now from this article from Kinsella. So Nizar reports this on the BBC. Chelsea have accepted a bid from Atletico Madrid for midfielder Conor Gallagher after he rejected a new Blues contract in June. The England international, 24 years old, is now able to negotiate personal terms after a bid around £33 million, according to sources in Spain, was accepted. Chelsea are understood to prefer the sale to a club outside of English football, so have opted to accept a lower bid rather than the 45 million bid being considered by Aston Villa. But I read that it was a club record fee. No, Fabrizio Romano reported it was an Aston Villa club record fee, which would have been more than 45, because didn't they buy Diaby for more than that? Anyway, it was a lot of money to Aston Villa. Interesting to hear this from Nizar saying Chelsea would rather sell out of the Premier League, because they had no issue selling Mason Mount to Manchester United. They had no issue selling Kai Havertz to Arsenal Football Club. They had no issue selling Mateo Kovacic to Manchester City. So now they've changed their tune. Maybe they just thought it was just an opportunity to get them all out in that window. We'll see. All good players, by the way, and all useful to their clubs. I know Mason Mount had a bad first season, but I think it will come good at Man United. So it remains unclear whether Gallagher will accept a move overseas, but the Londoners are ready to sell with less than 1 year remaining on his current deal. It's believed he's turned down a 3-year contract structured in a 2+1, and this was in June, the contract that he rejected, and apparently he rejected another one as well. I think they were both 2+1s. I imagine the second offer would have, of course, been on increased wages, you'd have to assume. Gallagher could also opt to leave the club on a free transfer next summer, and has previously had interest from Tottenham, Everton, and West Ham. Now, let's get into this a little bit here. First of all, I think a move to Atletico Madrid would be a cool transfer for Conor Gallagher. I've said it here on the channel recently. I feel like it'd suit the way they play. I think it'd suit Simeone. And yeah, I feel like it would be cool. He's spoken to Kieran Trippier and asked him about it when he knew there was interest with the England camp. Of course, he's only just returned from the Euros with the England camp. And apparently I was going to say, I was asking him about it. 1 second, actually, guys. Literally, as I'm talking to you, I got a notification about an Athletic article on Conor Gallagher as well from Liam Twomey. So I do want to pick up on that a little bit as well, just some of it while I've got you here for context. I'm not going to read all of it. There's a little introduction piece to keep us up to speed. He talks about the revelation of Gallagher twice turning down a new contract offer at Chelsea. It was a bit of a revelation, one in early June and one in late July, which of course is recently, really, really recently, but days ago. Against the backdrop of serious interest of Atletico Madrid, it landed with a jolt, undercutting the notion that the Cobham Academy graduate wanted nothing more to play for his boyhood club. So that is this one thing, like, oh, he doesn't love Chelsea that much because he just take the improved money and, the 2+1 deal. Obviously, it's more complex than that. It's also an incomplete picture of a more nuanced and complicated reality. To tell a fuller story, The Athletic gathered some information from various individuals involved in the Gallagher saga, and they all spoke anonymously to protect their relationships, which is the classic Athletic line. They offered him the contract twice, 2 years guaranteed, followed by a club option to extend for a third on a vastly increased salary than the previous deal he signed as a 21-year-old before joining West Brom on loan. Yeah, kind of like Mason Mount. He's been a really important player, or played a lot, for very, very low wages. He has, and he wants higher wages. His new wages at Chelsea that they offered him, the 2 contracts, especially the latest one from days ago, the 2+1, would put him among the top earners in the midfield, which is of course Caicedo and Fernandes. Fernandes, World Cup winner. Fernandes, best young player of the World Cup with a high European international profile. He gets paid a lot for a multitude of reasons. Of course, Moises Caicedo gets paid a lot. You know, Liverpool had a bid accepted for £111 million for Moises Caicedo. He was always going to get paid a lot. So these offers would put Gallagher up there as well, essentially. On the first occasion, Chelsea formed a formal contract early in June. And Gallagher had indicated he did not want to join Aston Villa, who had expressed serious interest to sign him. The second time around, as talks with Atletico intensified in late July, so in the recent days for Atleti Madrid, officials checked in with the England internationals camp to see if he was prepared to reconsider the same terms. Both times the answer of Gallagher's camp was no. So he's rejected the contracts. Whether this offer should be regarded as a 2-year or a 3-year deal, given the nature of the option, is a matter for the parties involved to debate. What is indisputable is that it stood in marked contrast to almost every other first teamer handed out long contracts, of course, by the new ownership. Within this context, Chelsea's offer is a much shorter deal, sent a clear signal that Gallagher's long-term presence in the first team was not viewed in the same way as fellow midfielders Enzo, Caicedo, Lavia, Keane and Dewsbury Hall. 1 year older than Gallagher, who arrived on a 6-year contract from Leicester. So yeah, Dewsbury Hall's a year older than Gallagher and got a longer contract. Look, we've known this is not a shock. This is not a shock. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you think it's right or not, it shouldn't shock you. We've known he's not been in the long-term plans for a while, rightly or wrongly. Chelsea's rationale, let's hear this then, was that while Gallagher's off-ball excellence had helped him establish himself as a regular starter under Pochettino, he was projected to be a squad player in new head coach Enzo Maresca's more possession-focused, positional style of play. And by the way, I love Conor Gallagher. I think he'll be amazing for Atletico Madrid. I think he would be great for Chelsea. I'd love to keep him. But I've been saying for months and months and months, as a Conor Gallagher fan, I don't think he starts. I've been very mindful and gentle with this because I understand he's a fan favourite. Rightly so. He's worn the captain armband. He gives a so-and-so. Do you know what I mean? I love it. I don't want to lose him. But it's a game of opinions, but I do align with this. I don't necessarily think he's the type of profile that should be starting in the Chelsea midfield to win the Premier League. Unless it's 2016 or 15 and you can play transitional football like Leicester and Conte and you play a lot off the ball, which it is not, of course. As such, while they were willing to reward his performances with a big pay rise and potentially be proven wrong in their assessment, they were not prepared to risk limiting themselves in football and financial terms by committing a long-term deal on such terms. Yeah, I'm sure if they're allowed to pay him what he's currently being paid now, they'd give him a 10-year deal. From a business perspective, such a short guaranteed contract would also have allowed Chelsea to protect Gallagher's transfer value beyond the summer, well, next summer essentially, giving them more time to assess his squad role, potentially canvas out him for a bigger market essentially, just figure out what they've got. To Gallagher as well, like, I get why it's like insulting or whatever, but it gives him an opportunity to be like, you know, is this, I get to play for Chelsea a bit more, I get to earn much more money, and, I get to see what's going on and play the field, and I'll still be like, in my 20s when the contract runs out, everything will be in my control. There's two sides to every story. Chelsea's pitch to Gallagher's camp was if he took the deal and continued to improve next season and become a regular starter under Maresca, he could quickly put himself in a strong position to return to the negotiating table for a longer contract and a higher salary range. So essentially it's saying, yeah, here's more money, here's a bit of a couple of years extra. Let's see what you were like under the new manager. If you're good, longer contract, more money. This stance landed poorly with Gallagher, who had done much last campaign to silence critics who doubted his ability to contribute to a ball-dominant team, leading Chelsea's entire squad playing in minutes across all competitions, never injured as well, superb availability, and proving to be Pochettino's one of his most reliable performers in a side that averaged 58% possession. So not all transitional. Gallagher could be forgiven for feeling merited a more solid place in Chelsea's long-term plans and more stability in general. In terms of individual development, he's barely put a foot wrong in his career, returning from a series of productive loans. And then, of course, he arrived in summer 2022 to blossom into a significant positive contributor at Stamford Bridge. Also, not the article, me speaking, he's a model professional. Like, he's like handled everything with a lot of grace. I mean, I don't know what's going on now with this, contract stuff, but he is like, he's a top boy in that. Do you know what I mean? He's just a good lad. But love is not always enough. Isn't that right, people? But he had not done enough to convince Chelsea that he would be worth paying like a regular starter on the type of ultra-long contract so often favoured by the new ownership. Chelsea's only previous attempts to initiate talks over new contracts was in October 2022. Gallagher's camp opted not to engage at that time, wary of agreeing fresh terms when his path to regular game time remained unclear. So really, it's like, yeah, at the end of Pochettino's season, that was the time to negotiate in his view, but they clearly stylistically still think he's not the one, Okay, more. Should I read any more here? There's a lot more of this. Let's just show. It talks more about Chelsea selling to rivals. We've spoken about Havertz, Kovacic, Mason Mount. Yeah, look, there's a massively long article. You can go and check it out if you want to. Look, what the take homes here? They've said, okay, we here's a 2+1. Here's more money, the money that presumably you want. So here's the money. At the moment, our plan for you is a squad role. If you prove to Maresca, you got to feel bad for him because he's proving himself to every coach as well. But it's different. You got to prove yourself again to it, and everyone has to prove yourself to a new coach. If Maresca thinks you are the one, then we will sit down at the table again. That perspective, you can't. That's fine. If you're a business owner, and look, this could be a briefing and it could be nonsense. But then again, what? So it blows my mind. Like the counter narrative to this is, they're idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're hateful. They're just being cruel for the sake of it. I don't think any of that is true. You can have your qualms and take issue with their project and process and plans. That's fine. But I don't think they're just doing this to just upset anyone. I think they're doing it because they just believe it's part of the plan, man. And if this isn't the briefing, if that's true, they've said, look, we can sit down at the table if it works out, but for the moment, we believe this is what's fair. Fine. But then again, my sort of take on it is that Conor Gallagher can do whatever the ruddy heck he wants. He's put in the time, he's put in the performances, he's been professional. Do what you want. If we have to let you go on a free, fine. If that's your choice, it's your right to make that choice. You'll have to probably take on the chin that you won't be utilised because, they haven't got you under contract. You're not going to be there in the future, so why plan for you? If you want to ride the bench for a season, unless Maresca decides to choose you, to utilise you just as a tool every now and again, but people aren't going to forget how good you are. Do you know what I mean? Villa want you. Atletico Madrid want you. I think he should go. I think we should sell him. I think he should accept, provided they're all agreeable terms. I think it would be a wicked gig, Atletico Madrid, for Conor Gallagher. I think it's a massively high level, so it's not under his level at all. He has Champions League, massive club, Madrid, amazing city, and you suit the football. You're perfect for the manager. So I think he should go personally. But if he stays, great. We can use him. I love how we use him for England as a closer. I think he'd be an amazing closer for Maresca as well. If he stays, I'm happy. If he goes, good on him. I hope he has a really good career. Anyway, this story is bound to drag on until it doesn't. Hopefully we get a closure and a conclusion this weekend. So keep it locked to Football Therapy. Turn the bell on when you subscribe, and we will follow the story here. Thanks for joining me. Love you very much. Hope to see you back here soon. Peace.